Welcome back to Elden Ring. I have spent probably around 1.5 to 2 million runes in order to bring you this video. And the reason I have done that is I've been doing a thorough testing on how you can improve your builds even further so that you can one-shot bosses, you can do all of the crazy sort of stuff in the game. There are going to be enemies that are vulnerable to certain status effects, there are going to be enemies that aren't really affected by them, so it depends on the enemies in the game, but essentially, at the end of this video, you should understand these stats a lot better and how you can use them to improve your overall character in the game. And just quickly, before we get any further into the video, if you're not currently subbed to the channel, make sure you do sub, turn notifications on. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to leave a like. All support is greatly appreciated. And if you want to support me further as a creator, then check out the links in the description. And let's get back to it. So, a lot of you in the comments would instantly go, the Ice Rind Hatchet is amazing because it comes with Hoarfrost Stomp by default. And if I told you that the Morning Star was better than the Ice Rind Hatchet, a lot of you would probably laugh because this isn't set up to actually run Frost. The Ice Rind Hatchet is set up, it's got a Frost build-up of 65 as a passive effect. But if you look at my Morning Star, the Frost build-up is 104. Unfortunately for Frost, this stat can't go any higher. It might be able to go to 105 if you get the weapon to level 25. The reason I've spent so many runes on making this video is because every weapon that requires somber smithing stones from its base level up to +9 is going to be 97,000 runes. Each weapon that requires the normal smithing stones from base up to +24 is 482,400 runes. There's no point taking loads and loads of weapons to +25, +10, depending on normal and somber. And that's because they require a specific ancient dragon smithing stone sort of thing. It's an item, you can't get too many of them in the game. Whereas with the going up to +24 on the normals and +9 on the sombers, you can eventually get the bell bearings so you can go to the Twin Maiden husks and you can purchase all of those smithing stones. So it then goes from having a limited amount of the ancient ones to only needing runes to purchase the rest of them. So that's why it's cost me so much. I've probably spent a good 1.5 to 2 million runes to set this all up. So if you do take a look at the Ice Rind Hatchet at +9, it's got a 65 Frost build-up. Even though it's got good scaling with dexterity, when you are using Hoarfrost Stomp, you're not going to be up close and personal using the physical attack. You can obviously do that as well, but Hoarfrost Stomp is more of a step back and attack enemies with it. Whereas if you take a look at the Morning Star, the Frost build-up is 104, the scaling is nowhere near as good. But as I said, the Frost builds up with just the weapon level. That's why going to a +9, you're only going to see a build-up of 65. I don't actually think the Somber Smithing Stone weapons allow the Frost build-up to level up and progress. That's why I've gone with the Morning Star, because this weapon starts with no Frost build-up. You put it up to +24, and the Frost build-up goes to 104. So if I go into a Site of Grace, and I show you applying an Ash of War to a standard sword, if I was to put the Hoarfrost Stomp Ash of War onto this, the Frost build-up bottom right goes to 104. So that number in brackets, the higher it is, the better it is. And when it comes to things like Bleed actually builds up, or Haemorrhage as the status effect is known as, it builds up with your arcane stat. So if I go into my equipment and I get out the Blood Cross Naginata +24, you will see that the blood loss build-up is 82. I currently have 11 arcane. If I take this mask off and I put on the Silver Tier mask, you'll see it boosts your arcane +8. So going up to 19, the blood loss build-up is not a massive increase, but it goes from 82 to 83. Therefore, when you get that build-up and you inflict blood loss, you're going to deal more damage with it. So if I show you, if I take that off, if I rest just to reset the enemies, I've not picked the best location for this, but it is good enough. I'm all the way outside the capital, up at the Road of Iniquity side path. So what I'm going to do is head over to the southwest, We're going to do this testing on the big guys that walk the caravan, and the reason I've chosen these is because they have a lot more health than the ones down at Waypoint Ruins. If I start with the Ice Rind Hatchet, this is a +9, it's got a 65 build-up. If I Hoarfrost Stomp once, you are going to see after the tick it's 1819. I think that's actually procced something else, but if I come over and I do it to this guy, that's 2013. So a better showcase would be if I use the Ice Rind Hatchet at +9, and this enemy right here, I'm going to do one stomp. So if I get kind of close, I do one stomp. After the tick, that's 1096 damage. So if I use the Morning Star and I come to the same enemy, you can see that instead of 1096, it was 1246. So that was an extra 150 damage from the very first stomp, using a weapon that isn't exactly designed to run frost. You can see that was 878. Then if I come back over here with the Morning Star instead, and I do my one stomp, instead of 878, you're going to see 998. So you'll see, like, obviously the first stomp is not a massive damage difference, but when you are applying frostbite, it's going to deal more damage the more you attack that enemy. So as it builds up, you're going to inflict big amounts of damage. But not only that, with frostbite, it deals damage and it lowers the target's damage absorption by 20% and their stamina recovery. So that's going to be really good. But then in terms of bleed, so yes, I am doing it again. What I'm going to do is purchase the smithing stones. I have sat there farming for a little while, so I need 12 of each. And I currently have, like, none because of the amount of upgrading I've been doing. All for this video. There we go. I'm left with 41,000 runes. I've spent, I'm going to say, a little over 2 million on the video. I'm pretty sure I did a bit more than 1.5 before I started. But now, if I go into here, my new Blood Spiked Palisade Shield +1 is currently at 84. I've put the Shield Crash Ash of War on it, and I used the Blood Effect, or the Blood Affinity, on Shield Crash. So if I now spam upgrade this, if I have enough runes, you'll see the blood loss build-up stacking up, and I'm going to have to go farm some more. I actually can't afford it. Okay, back in a moment. If I come back round to the blacksmith dude now, and I have a look at the shield, I'm putting it all the way up to +24. There we go. So if I was to get it to +25, the blood loss build-up would be 122, but currently it's 120. If I put that in my shield hand, and I put something like the Lightning Uchi Katana in my other hand, you'll see that because I don't have this spec'd into blood, the blood loss build-up is 45. But because I do have this shield built into blood loss, is 120. There are other weapons in the game that will have a passive effect, like, by default, but that doesn't really matter, because if you take, I can't even think of a weapon off the top of my head, but one that requires somber smithing stones is not really going to build up that passive effect. So realistically, for the best effect for blood loss, you need to be using something that requires the standard smithing stones to upgrade. Yes, it's going to be more expensive, but you are going to get a more powerful result at the end of it. And what I've done quickly is I have taken a screenshot of my stats. I'm now going to go and respec. All I'm going to do is make sure I've got 20 strength. I'll make sure I've got around 40 vigor. And then the rest of my points are going into arcane, so I can show you what effect you're going to get by working on your arcane. Because at this stage, to level up is so expensive for me. So at +24 with Seppuku, the blood loss build-up is 82. If you look at the shield, at +24, the blood loss build-up is 120, but that's with 11 arcane. So all I've done there is 38 Vigor, 11 Endurance, which is what it was before, purely for the stamina and the equip load. Then I've got 99 Arcane. So now I've done that, if we have a look, the blood loss build-up on the Naginata has gone from 115, and from 120 on the shield, yeah, it's gone up to 168. If I also use the skill, you'll see that I'm absolutely shredding these enemies to pieces. This is using a shield, by the way. So now the enemies are dealt with, if I come to Pumpkinhead and I just keep attacking him, I mean, realistically, I'm not going to have to do a lot, am I? You'll see the blood that he's just lost. You'll see the blood loss there after 2 hits. And it just stacks and stacks and stacks. So obviously running a shield isn't the best way to do it, especially when they shield break. So what I can do now, even as an astrologer, I can wield a shield that causes blood loss, and I can also wield the Naginata, which has really good blood loss too. So if you look at that big chunk, I know I've just died, if you look at the big chunk of health that I took off that enemy, that's all that's going to happen. So if you do it with something like an Uchi Katana, where it's got really, really quick attacks, if I go and level it up quick, I can actually showcase it. Also, if you have a look at my stats, you'll see 43 Vigor, I've got all the Mind and everything, I've got the 99 Arcane. If you look at the Morning Star, it's got a 104 Frost build-up still. So even though I'm fully specced into Arcane, if I come over here, I'm still dealing a lot of damage to these enemies, enough to still one-tap them. So if we now have a look, after I've farmed a lot more runes, I had to put 2 more levels in, 1 for Dex, 1 for Intelligence, I've had to change my mask. I then had to upgrade the Moonveil 3 times and the Uchi Katana 8 times. But if you have a look at the blood loss build-up, it's 115 on the Uchi Katana, it's only 50 on the Moonveil. That's why I'm going to prioritise the Uchi Katana. So obviously there's things that you can use to further boost this. But you'll see, as long as I'm not being attacked, as long as I'm rolling out of the way of attacks, I'm absolutely shredding through things. And the bigger the health, the more you'll just absolutely destroy everything. One of the hardest bosses I've faced in this game was the Dragon Lord, and with a build that wasn't fully optimized for bleed, that's how I took him down. So if I do seppuku again for these big guys, and I start attacking, you'll see that blood loss after 2 hits. So there we go, that's 1 down. So there, you can see just how much damage you can deal really quick, and then if you proc everything else, if you run the, where is it? If you take Lord of Blood's Exaltation, there's lots of different things you can use to boost the attack power for when there's bleed involved. So doing it like this and making sure you understand which stats for your character actually spec into building up these build-up passive effects is going to be really beneficial. And you can see from my stats now, I have nothing but a bit of Vigor and Arcane. And I've taken the Arcane purely because of the blood loss build-up. As I said, with Cold, it's purely based on the weapon level itself. It doesn't actually build up any faster with stats. So it doesn't scale with intelligence, dexterity, or anything like that. And obviously all of the different status effects and passive effects, they're going to scale with different things. So if you're wanting to make a bleed build, spec into some Arcane. If you're wanting to have a Hoarfrost Stomp build, then make sure you're applying as many levels as you can to your weapons. This is going to give you the biggest benefit possible for your builds. And as long as you have a larval tier, they're relatively easy to find. You can respec to actually start building into the stats you want. So the only thing this is really going to do for any Elden Ring player is just help out, and it's going to help improve your builds more and more. So don't forget, when you are working on a build, make sure you look at the passive effects. Even if you just look at your Ash of War, make sure you understand the effect it's going to give, and then spec more into that to improve it even further. And on that note, we're going to leave the video there. Let me know your thoughts and stuff in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. I hope you guys enjoyed it.